recession, rising interest rates, inflation, everything seems to be getting more expensive. There's a lot of question marks in the economy, which can cause uncertainty, not only now, but in your future. And that's exactly why Courtney and I decided to have Mel Abraham on to discuss what you can do to make sure your money is working harder for you than you are for it by building your money machine. With that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Michael and Courtney Weaver, and we have a very special guest with us today, Mel Abraham. And Mel, you just came out with a brand new book that I am extremely excited about talking about because you are not from money. All right. You are an immigrant. You have done amazing for yourself. You are a statistic. All right. You're one of the 75% of millionaires that didn't come from money. And you built a book called Building Your Money Machine that teaches people how to get their money to work harder for them than they did working for the money itself. So Mel, thank you so much for coming on the Buzz today. I'm pumped for this episode.
Oh my God. So good to be here, Michael and Courtney. So good to just hang with you and see you guys again. It's been a while.
I know. We need to get together again soon. You're speaking and doing all the things, getting your message out. I want to start with I would say it's a hot topic right now because we're going to talk about retirement. And you have a thought process, and I want you to expand on this, that our retirement system is broken. Tell me what you mean by that and what's going on there.
Well, here's the thing. We got raised, at least at this country, was really grown in an industrial age. And during that industrial age, we had industrial age thinking served us at the time. You know, you work for a company and you work for a company for decades and pretty much all your life, 40 years, 50 years. And as a form of loyalty and payback for loyalty, they gave us something called a pension plan. And which was a guarantee of a lifetime of income. Now, back then it was pretty easy to do because our lifetimes weren't so long. And they said, we'll guarantee it and everything. But what happened is people started to live longer. It became more expensive. Companies started to do away with it. Then they turned around and said, we have an idea. We're going to give you retirement plans called IRAs, SEP IRAs, 401ks, all of that stuff, which on the surface sounds really good. But what it forced happening, when you had a pension plan, the fact was that you had a choice of I work, don't work, and you're a participant in the plan, and that's it. I sit on a pension committee of an old company founded in the late 1800s. So we have a pension plan. The participants, if you're employed, you participate. They don't have to question investments. They don't have to question management. We take care of all of that for them. The problem when they turned around and did away with it is they took the decision-making and the choices and the responsibility and dumped it in our laps. And they said, here you go. Here's 401k, here's IRA. And on the surface, it sounds great. But what ended up happening is that now we had to make a choice. Do we participate? How much do we participate? Oh, gosh, now I got to figure out where to invest. I don't know where to invest. I don't understand this. And so what we end up with is people not participating in their own retirement, or they get in it in a way that they don't understand and they don't use it as powerfully as they could. And then the other part of this is this. Most retirement plans today, they presume, and I think it's a horrible presumption, that you can retire on a percentage of your current income. So if I'm making 100,000, they'll say, if you got 70% of it, 70,000, you'll be okay in retirement. Well, I don't want a 30% decline in my lifestyle if I just finished working, 40, 50 years. And to me, it's this save and put as much away as possible and then reduce your lifestyle and pray it lasts long enough to cover your life. And to me, that's the broken system. And what we really should be doing instead is saying, how do I take the money that I create, the cash flow that I create through job, through business, through whatever endeavor, that earnings machine that they've told us about that we have to do, go get a job, go get a good income, make money, make money. How do I use that as the vehicle and the tool to create what we call the money machine? The ability to create, in effect, an ATM. In effect, a machine that allows you the ability to draw cash from it once you decide to stop working full time, and that the machine can regenerate itself. That you're not eroding the machine and hoping that your life doesn't outlast the money. And it's a different paradigm. It is, in a sense, bringing, and now you create your own lifetime of income. You create your own pension plan indirectly by creating this machine. It's not as easy to do because it takes a little bigger machine to allow you to keep taking away and not having it erode. But it's simple to do if you understand what to do. And that's the genesis of this whole thing, is that I didn't want to be in a place where I had this sort of Damocles, I guess that's what he called it. Well, you know, it's just like, it's hanging over your head and going, oh man, like my mom. My mom is 90 plus years old. She's in assisted living. She's been on dialysis 6 years. And she's constantly saying to me, do I have, you know, it's costing like 15 grand a month to be there because they got to take her to dialysis, all that. She goes, do I have enough money? Do I have enough money? I mean, at 90 years old, you shouldn't be freaked out or worried about it. And the problem is that the way that we were raised to create a retirement puts us in that place of going, in a sense, you're going, I hope I don't live too long. Why? I hope we live forever. You know, not really forever, but, you know, a long time while the quality of life is good. And so that's kind of where this all kind of came about.
And I love this topic because I'm of the belief that we as humans are going to have the ability to live longer. So now it's building a machine that just doesn't get us till our 90s or hundreds, but I have a personal goal of living till I'm 140. So how do I create a machine? So you've piqued my interest. So what type of habits or behaviors should individuals be doing or implementing in their life right now to make sure they are building their money machine for the future?
I think the first thing is to make it a priority. No matter your age, stage, or circumstance, your ability to build wealth and to build financial freedom is more connected to the behaviors, choices, and habits that you have than it is ever connected to the money. Here's why. 79% of millionaires, in a study of 10,000 millionaires, 79% of them were first-generation millionaires. Meaning that it wasn't given to them, it wasn't inherited, it wasn't won. They created it in their lifetime. So you imagine for a moment, 8 out of 10 created a millionaire status in their lifetime. That's pretty good odds, okay? 31% of them never made much more than $100,000 annually. So clearly, it isn't about making a boatload of money that is what creates the millionaires. It's what they did with the money they had that created it. And I think that's the thing that we miss, is that we think that we have to make a ton of income to do it. No, we don't, because there's plenty of people with a ton of income. Nicolas Cage, Burt Reynolds, Mike Tyson. I mean, I can keep going, that made, you know, MC Hammer, all of them made a ton of money and ended up broke. So it wasn't the money. It was what they did with it. It was the choices, the habits, the decisions. And the challenge is this. We don't talk about money. Mm. You know, I was raised in a house where it was impolite to have conversation about money. Yet here I am every day talking about money, because another study, American Psychological Association, said 72% of people say they're stressed about money. 22% said it's extreme stress. Y'all, if we have a quarter of the population or three-quarters of the population stressed or extremely stressed about money, and then we're told not to talk about it, how do we solve this problem? Because here's the thing I know. If finances is one of the major stressors in our life, we will never have physical wellness or mental wellness without financial wellness. But we can't have financial wellness without having a conversation around it.
I think that's so fascinating because in psychology, there's this whole principle that's called, it's essentially naming something to taming. And it's this thought that when you have a fear, if you talk about it, that initially will lessen that sense of fear. So it's so fascinating that the thing that we are so afraid of, we've been conditioned to not talk about when we know that that's exactly what we're supposed to do.
Well, you look at, they say that, and I don't know how valid this is, but I know it's up there. They said that money is the second leading cause of divorce. But I don't think it's money that's the second leading cause. If it is the second, but even if it's third or fourth, it doesn't matter. It's high up there. It's the inability to communicate about money.
Yep.
It's not money itself. Because then we tend to make money the bad thing. It's the conversations, our inability to have the conversation. And the money isn't where the conversation should be. The vision for our life is where we should be having the conversations, up here. Because then you sit back and say, how does money, the tool of money, allow us to have this life up here? And we have the conversation about our life and how to use the tool to make it a possibility and what each of our roles are with the tool. But what happens is that we tend to have conversations around money as a couple. And when we do that, this is where we come from a place of, instead of visualization and a vision, we come from a place of accusation
Yep.
and frustration and aggravation and all those things. Well, that's never a good recipe for a relationship. And yet we're not taught how to have the conversations, or we give more power to the tool than we should.
I was just going to say, I think it goes on a even deeper level than that, because if you're always in a mindset of scarcity and thinking about what you don't have from a money standpoint, yes, that's going to be stress related. You're going to have health issues, but that in itself means that you're always operating
From what you don't want. You're
that's right.
attracting the
You're
thing you
always
don't want.
operating in a way of, I don't have enough.
Yeah.
And that in itself is going to eliminate you from having a vision of what you want, that abundance mindset. And I've got to think from a health standpoint, that's not going to be good on your personal health. That's not going to be good on your relationship with your spouse. Everything's just not going to be good enough. It's not going to be enough.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that there's this confidence competence loop that they talk about in psychology, that the confidence comes through gaining competence. And look, just so people understand, I ain't no saint. I have made plenty of mistakes with money. I lost 1/3 of everything I owned in an investment that turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. And we're talking millions. Between me and two buddies, we lost over $4.5 million. Okay. So I'm not this picture of perfection. In fact, most of the lessons in the book were based on my skinned knees and stubbed toes and broken nose and all the stuff that I did wrong. Because look, if it all cost me millions in the long run, there's no reason that the audience should be paying the same millions. If I got the lessons, let me give it to you and do that. But what we need to do is educate, equip, and empower ourselves to take control of the wheel and not feel like we are the slave to the money. We are the master of the money, because it is a tool that we need to use to create the life that we were put here to live, and use it for that purpose. And too often it's the other way around. We're doing things for the money. And I get, we got to have a job. We got to pay bills. That's not what I'm getting at. But if the driving force behind choice in life is the daily demands always, instead of the choice of what I want to live. There comes a level of stress, angst, and a level of lack that comes into play. And most of the lack when it comes around money, and I talk about this in the book, is I call it the stack of lack, is not, it's not because of fear. They say, I'm afraid to make a bad financial decision. It's because we lack something: clarity, information, action, support, options, okay, a plan. And there's 6 of them that we break down. And when you do that, now all of a sudden you strip away all the things that are giving you the angst because there was something missing. And if we're not having these conversations, if we're not sitting back and say, look, it's simple. It may not be easy, but just because it's difficult doesn't make it impossible. It's simple. Let's just follow some simple principles, because your wealth creation is a math equation, and math always works out. So let's just give you the equation, follow the formula. And so if we just give you that and you just follow the set of rules with discipline over time, you'll be fine. But the tendency is that we allow media, social media, expectations, temptation, all these things to come into our world, and we make emotional decisions around our money instead of logically understood decisions around our money, and then we go astray. You know, I look at my son and his wife. Now, I raised him as a single full-time dad from age 5.5. He's now 34. His wife's 32. So his brainwashing started early, around 10 years old. Okay. But here they are at their age with 2 young kids. One's 3 and one's 1. And they just went into contract on their 4th home, and they have a multimillion-dollar net worth. And it isn't because they came from, because I didn't give them any money. I gave them the tools. I gave them the understanding. I gave them a process. I gave them the frameworks. I gave them the formula, and they're just following the formula. And they're being disciplined about it. And they're not allowing the peer pressure and the temptation of all their, because the decades of the 30s especially, we call it the messy middle, because this is when life is changing. You're having kids, you're buying homes, things, and it just gets messy. And it's easy to go astray with your finances at that point and end up way in debt, over their head. You know, they have 1 car. They don't need 2 cars. You know, because they both work from home. They don't need 2 cars. So they're just living, and they have historically, they're not doing it this year because they just buying this other house. They've historically gone for a month out of the year to different countries. Portugal for a month, you know, and so, and then
we need to be friends with your kids.
Sound a lot like us right now, Mel.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, that's the thing, because they realize what creates richness in life, and they know that if we follow these principles, it will all take care of itself. And we do things in a way that you keep yourself safe. You have a good, solid foundation. You don't overextend yourself, and you follow rules. And over time, you will be all right.
If there was like one basic principle that I know we're talking about a lot here, but if somebody was listening to this right now and they're like, okay, what is the one rule or basic principle that I cannot break? What would be the one thing that you would say about money?
I think, so the biggest principle to realize is that you cannot win the wealth game if you're not on the field. You can't do it on the sidelines, and you can't do it from the stands. Okay. So what do I mean by that? There are those people that I have conversations with that sit back and say, well, when I make more money, I'll start doing this. Okay. That means you're sitting in the stands. You're not even in the game. But here's the problem. Wealth creation is a behavior. It's not about the money. So if we don't exercise the wealth creation muscle, no matter what it is, then we don't get into the habit of building wealth. So I tell people that at the very beginning, even if all you can squeak out is $5, you exercise the muscle and you put $5 a week away. and just do it, to start exercising, get in the habit, because the 5 turns to 10, turns to 100, turns to 1,000, turns to 10,000. But if we're waiting until we all of a sudden are making magically 150, 200,000, and now I'm going to do it, first things first, you ate up time and you didn't build the muscle and you didn't build the habit. Okay, so that's the first piece of that whole thing, got to get on the field. The second piece is this. You can be on the sidelines. What I mean on the sidelines is those people that sit back and say, I'm scared of the market. I'm scared of investing. I don't want to lose money. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it safe. So I'm going to just put it in a savings account. So watch what happens here. I'm going to just play the numbers for you. If I put $5,000 away from age 25 to 65 at 8% in an S&P 500 fund, okay, that's 40 years, you're going to put $200,000 away. At 8%, by the time you hit retirement age, you'll have over $1.5 million. That's $5,000 a year. Now you got to start at age 25, but that's fine. But this is for demonstration. Let's assume you're the one that's scared and you go, I don't want to do it. I don't understand the market. I haven't got the information. So I'm going to put it in a 2% savings account. And I get we can get 5% right now, but it's not going to last. So I can get 2% in a savings account. So you have the same person from 25 to 65, 40 years, $200,000, put it in a 2% savings account. The one person that invested it has $1.5 million. The person that is in a 2% account has $314,000. So they got $314,000. You cannot save yourself to wealth. You must be on the field doing things the right way. And so the first things first, I think the first habit is to make investing a priority. To sit back and say, I'm not going to worry about my lifestyle first. I'm going to worry about my future first, lifestyle second.
And I believe and that rule should be applied to everyone. I think sometimes as an entrepreneur and business owner, when you have fluctuating income, you've hinted at this, it's simple, but it may not be easy. When you see your income maybe go down for a certain month or extended amount of time as you're building a new business, whatever it may be, it's not easy to pay your future self and invest in your future self at that point. And that's where that discipline muscle, I think, really gets tested. Personally, just speaking as an entrepreneur, like you have really good months, some months are not good. So how can you make sure you're building that muscle to consistently invest in your future self so you have enough money to be able to walk away one day?
So I love this conversation because I came from similar roots in the sense that I was project driven. So there could be months that I'd make, $100,000, $200,000, and there could be months that I made $5. So a couple things for those folks that are in that space. One, beware of lifestyle creep. Okay, so I want to keep my expenses low as possible. I do not believe, like some commentators will say, live on mac and cheese all your life until you get this straight. Because you cannot deprive yourself to wealth, and you will not find a rich life in deprivation. So what's important, remember I said we start with the lifestyle, the vision first. When we define the vision, what's important is to define 3, maybe 4 absolute meaningful joy points in your life. My wife and I love to travel, and we love to travel, let's just say in style. Okay, it's not private jets, but we like to yeah. Because it's the experience that we're creating. That's really high on the list. Now, there are other things that are momentary pleasures that may come into our life, but if it's not in the plan or we don't have the capacity to get it and it's not one of the joy points, we don't do it. But why I want the joy points is I need people to enjoy the path to financial freedom. If they don't enjoy the path to it, they will not enjoy the destination of it because they don't know how to. So the first thing is to watch lifestyle creep, manage those expenses down as best as possible, okay? And then do something that I call leapfrog funding. So you're going to have big months, you're going to have low months. Make sure that you're investing at a base level doesn't change. So you'll have a set amount that you're going to put away on a regular basis. And then when you have the big months, when you all of a sudden you go, wow, we had a good month. What I would do when this happened to me is that I would take a piece of it and say, okay, when's my next revenue generating activity? If it's 3 months from now, I needed to make sure that I set aside 90 days of reserve to carry me until then. So that's one piece of it. The second slice is that I wanted to slice a piece off, unspoken, but I'm going to say it anyways. You got to slice a piece off for taxes. Okay, so let's make sure that you're doing that. Okay, but after that, the next slice I want you to slice off is I want a sliver for celebration. So there's got to be some joy in it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're just going, okay, on next. I want you to celebrate. I want you to reflect. I want you to enjoy the success. But that doesn't mean you go spend it all. And now you've taken care of taxes. You've taken care of the gap between that and the next revenue generating activity. You've got a bit of celebration. The rest of it goes directly to funding the future. And now by doing that, all of a sudden, in 1 month, you might be able to drop 50 grand into your future. It's called leapfrog funding. It's what I did as I would get these projects. It's what I taught my son to do when he would get windfalls in or things like that. Hey, carve a piece out, go enjoy it, take the rest, put it into your future. And so for entrepreneurs that have up and down income, find that baseline you can invest, okay? If you're not 100% sure, then do it as a percentage, okay? Make sure it's a priority. And then when you have windfall months or quarters, take a big chunk of that and leapfrog fund it into the future.
I love that strategy. Leapfrog investing. That's a good one. So Mel, I've got to ask you, because in my experience, there's usually typically a hang up where, okay, I'm ready to invest. Where should I be investing? So are you an individual that believes in a diversified portfolio, or should you go all in on one? I mean, there's so many things to invest in, from the stock market to crypto to real estate to businesses to life insurance to annuities. Like, what should someone be investing in? Like, what does that look like?
All right. So, and I break it down in detail in the book. But here's my philosophy is I want an unshakable foundation first. So safety first, growth second. And so everything we do is based on that recipe. And so at the very beginning, I actually tell people I want it simple, because if it's complex, you won't do it. Mm-hmm. Okay? If you don't understand it, you won't do it. So I want people to invest in a diversified portfolio, typically at the very beginning. And here's why. So what does that mean? That means an ETF, index fund, something like that, that's broad-based, liquid, and has a history of operations, okay? We know that the S&P 500 has gone up 8 out of 10 years, okay? That if you look at it over a 20-year period, 90% of the time, you'll get an 8% or more return, okay? 59% of the time, you will get a 10% or more return. So if I'm investing long-term, then, and I want to have a better foundation, that's where I start. Because inevitably, when you first start out, you don't have a lot of cash. And so we can't get ourselves away from the risk. Now, if I go into a single stock, then one, I might not be able to get too many stocks, because let's say I got $2,000. Well, Facebook is $500 a share. So what, I buy 4 shares of Facebook, and when it drops $60, you get hammered, you know? Or you turn around and say, well, I want to do real estate. And I love real estate, but not at the beginning. And the reason for it is this, is that, let's say, to get into a property, you might have 10 grand, but that's going to get you one property. You'll leverage it. You'll get one property, but here's where Mary said safety first. If that property isn't bought right, or you have a bad tenant, or a tenant that doesn't pay, a tenant that you have to evict, or you can't rent it, or you have a repair that was unplanned. I have someone that literally bought an office building, and they wanted to do work on the building. And when they started to do work on the building, they found out the contractor says, you got asbestos here. You got to get the tenants out. We've got to remediate. That's going to be $150,000. And then we can do the work. So not only did they have this unplanned expense, but they had to move the tenants out, and now they have no rent. And so what I don't want, if someone ends up in a bad real estate deal at the beginning, it can destroy them. So that's why I say, hey, let's start with something that's diversified and liquid, because that same 10,000, I can put in an S&P 500 fund or a total stock market fund, invest in 500 to 3,000 companies. If one goes south, the rest are going okay. Yep. And if I know that over time I get critical mass, now I can look at these other kinds of investments. But I want to keep it simple, because if it's not simple, you won't get in. And I want to keep it safer to mitigate the potential exposures of someone going, because inevitably Murphy's Law says you jump into something and all of a sudden it goes down, and so you go, see, I shouldn't have been doing this. But we're talking long term.
Oh man, that's so familiar. I just dumped money in crypto just a little bit a while ago, and now it's down like 40% because it's so volatile. Murphy's Law, baby. Yeah. Bam. But I daily cost average as well. So, but I'm with you. Like index mutual funds, ETFs, I believe is where most investors need to go, specifically in the very beginning of their investing tenure. Mel, I agree 100%.
I'm your hedge always. Every time he's like, I'm in crypto, I'm like, that's great because I'm in the stock market. So I will hedge you all day long. Like this is, we have different risk tolerances.
We do have different risk tolerances, but we also have time on our side. Yeah. We're only in our mid 30s. It's like we have time. So if crypto works out, great. If crypto doesn't work out, the risk reward play, I think is pretty good. So,
And the biggest takeaway, Mel, that you keep hitting home that I love is that it doesn't matter if it's a lot or a little bit. You just have to start. Like you have to get in the game, because if not, this goes by pretty fast. I mean, you blink and 10 years have passed and you're like, wait a minute.
We're already in our mid 30s. We got married just 10 years ago.
Yeah, it happens. It happens pretty quickly.
Watch this. At 20 years old, every dollar you put away in an S&P 500 fund will go up 88 times. At 25 years old, just 5 years, that drops to 44 times. At 30 years old, it drops to 23 times. Now, still 23 times is a lot. But when you look at the impact of waiting, the time is our greatest lever. This is the problem that I see with a lot of the youth is they think, I got time. No. I've got one kid that he joined one of my programs at 16 and a half years old. He was 17. We were on a call and he said, I got a job. What do I do? I said, open up a Roth. And so he opens up a Roth. Literally a month and a half ago, we're on a call. And he said, I funded my Roth. I don't know how to invest it. What do I invest in? I go, how old are you now? He says, I'm 18 now. I said, great. I'm thinking, he's 18. What could he fund? He funded, $500, maybe $1,000. So I said, how much did you fund it with? He says, well, I fully funded 2023. I said, wait. You put $6,500 away? He says, yeah, and I already funded 2024. I go, hold on a second. You put $13,500 away. He says, yeah, I live at home. I don't have any expenses.
He's 18?
He's 18. I said, let me do the math for you. That's going to go up 105 times by the time you retire. You're already a millionaire. The only thing we have to avoid is stupid. I mean, and the power. Then this is why I was speaking in Montana, and they sent a car service to pick me up, and it was a kid who was 25 years old who just finished school, and he was a driver. He says, what would you tell someone like me about retirement? I said, here's the first thing. Stop calling it retirement, because it's easy to put it off. What you're really looking for is peace of mind. And peace of mind is something we want today. And now it becomes a more immediate concern. And so getting in the game, and I can see people and hear people now, well, this is great to know now, but I'm in my 30s, I'm in my 40s, I wish I had not. Doesn't matter. You got to get in the game wherever you're at. and work from wherever you're at, because you still have time. We still have decades ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
I might be biased right now, but we're still pretty young in our 30s, all right? Like 30s and 40s.
You're
Life
still
is just
good.
getting started. We haven't even hit the midway point. Get in the game, baby. Start paying your future self, Mel.
Yeah, it's never too late.
This has been amazing. If somebody wanted to follow you, connect with you, work with you, what's the best way for them to do this?
So with the book, they can go to yourmoneymachinebook.com. And I break it all down there. Plus, I have a workbook that goes along with it and some things to help them get it into their life. And then I'm on Instagram at Mel Abraham 9, my website at melabraham.com, and my show and YouTube channel is Mel Abraham. I'm on a journey. I'm on a crusade to shine the light and on the path to financial freedom for 1 million families, and I think it's possible. It's just not something that we've grown up talking about. And if people are uncomfortable around me because I want to talk about money, we're not talking about money from a greed standpoint. We're talking about money from a tool standpoint and allowing people to live fully, their life fully expressed. And I think that's what we were put here to do. And I see nothing wrong with that. And if they have a problem with it, they're just not part of my crew.
Amen.
Fully expressed for sure. Oh, Mel, this has been so great. I love connecting with you always.
Well, Mel, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you for all of those that are listening or checking us out on YouTube. We appreciate you. As always, time and attention are by far our most important assets. We appreciate you spending time with us today. Mel, thank you again.
Thanks for having me. This has been so much fun.